Hey everybody, welcome back to New Slang. I'm your host, music journalist Thomas Mooney. We have a great one here for episode 188. This time around, I'm joined by Jesse Daniel, who is releasing his third record, Beyond These Walls, this Friday, July 30th. So I've obviously thoroughly enjoyed Jesse's previous albums, his self-titled debut, and last year's Rollin' On. But this one right here, I think he just does it better. Like, he takes those things that he was already doing well and just does it better. And he just hones in on the songwriting and storytelling aspect. It still has that California country, Bakersfield sound meets dance hall days, honky-tonk rhythms. But I think this specific record, it just finds him finding that sweet spot. It just sounds killer. Songs like Looking Back and Think I'll Stay are just about as perfect as possible. For me, I think what he does here that's just a little bit better, and something that we expand on during the interview, is he just really leans in on the storytelling aspects of the record and just does an incredible job of telling some of these stories. Here, I think like a song like Clayton Was a Cowboy, for example, that kind of just works no matter what music styling you have. That's just a great song. It just works no matter the lens. And another thing that I really appreciate that he does on this one is there's been hints of it in the past, but this time around he full on embraces that border Tex-Mex, Tejano, Norteño music. As he mentions, he was raised around a lot of this music growing up, and he's always had that appreciation for it. He just kind of finds that right and proper, I guess, context or lens to share that influence. And of course, he does get a really great collaboration here with Raul Malo of the Mavericks, and they just knock it out of the park on that one. And of course, whenever you kind of get a collaboration like that, you get some instant street cred. In many respects, Beyond These Walls, it's just really that natural progression of the artist. You find Jesse honing in on what he's done well, and again, kind of expanding in directions that he's been interested in. I think it's his best work yet, and I think it's going to really do wonders for him, and hopefully you'll enjoy this record. Again, Beyond These Walls, it's out Friday, July 30th. Today's presenting partner is our pals over at Desert Door Texas Soto. If you've been listening to New Slang for really any amount of time, you'll know that Desert Door is one of my all-time favorite premium, high-quality spirits. If you haven't or aren't sure what exactly a Soto is, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that's going to up the game on your liquor cabinet. For starters, the best reference point that I can point you to is to think about a tequila or a mezcal. Do you feel that Western desert, that Texas ruggedness? Okay, Soto is like that, but a little bit more refined, smooth, and fragrant. It intrigues the palate and offers these hints of vanilla and citrus. There's an earthiness that often sends me right back to my Trans-Pecos and far west Texas roots. There's plenty to love about Desert Door. For me, it all starts right there. A close second is just how versatile Desert Door really is. You can go full highbrow and experiment with concocting a variety of cocktails that call for muddling fresh fruit, sprigs of thyme, sticks of cinnamon. It's perfect for that world. If you're a little bit more down home, if you've just rolled up the sleeves of your denim Wrangler button-up, it's perfect for that as well. If you're just desiring something that's short and sweet, it hits the mark every time. Desert Door is genuine and authentically West Texan. It's inherently West Texan. They harvest Soto plants out in the wild and are knowledgeable conservationists at heart. That's obviously something incredibly important to me. They shine a light on what makes West Texas special and unique and worth preserving and keeping it safe from exploitation. Right now, you can find Desert Door all over Texas, Colorado, Tennessee, and there's budding numbers in places like New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Georgia. Best thing you can do is to check out desertdoor.com to find where Desert Door is locally. Again, that's desertdoor.com. If this is your first time listening to New Slang, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're available anywhere you listen to podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and so on. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, though, go ahead and leave one of those 5-star reviews. If you're interested in getting any merch or joining the Patreon, links are provided in the show notes. All right, let's get on into it. Here is Jesse Daniel. Which, of course, let's just start there. The new record is out July 30th. And you've been releasing singles the last couple of weeks here and there. I really do love the new sound on the record. I think you're going off in a lot of different new directions while kind of, still maintaining that Jesse Daniel sound. As far as being, influenced by that Bakersfield sound and the California country. What I guess this is one of those things where we're getting into the territory where people are making these records that are coming out of the quarantine. I know last time we talked, you had already kind of mentioned or hinted at, what was going to be following up your last record. But this is obviously new territory for you as well, as far as the quarantine record, quote unquote. What kind of I guess this past year, what kind of things did you run into as far as getting ready for this record and writing this record?
Well, with this one, I think, and I appreciate it. You noticing that we did strive to make a different record. That was one of my biggest things with making a record after Rolling On, was to do something, to not make the same album twice. My first one in 2018 is very different from Rolling On. And like you said, I try to kind of maintain some of the similar style, but, production's different. And we wanted to, keep it country, keep it within, my style and whatnot, but just kind of branch out. And there's so many other avenues of country music that I love. And, as well as being influenced by, Bakersfield sound and being from California and kind of tapping into that history. Living in Texas now, I've always been really influenced by, a lot of the Texas songwriters, and just kind of traveling around also, being influenced by different types of music and things. We wanted to showcase that. And man, we sure had a lot of time this past year to kind of focus on really take our time with a lot of these songs and kind of the direction we wanted them to go in. So by the time we hit the studio, we had a real clear idea of what we wanted to do.
Yeah, that last record, I almost kind of think of that as being the open road record. There was a lot of you talking about being on the road as far as touring, and a lot of connections with playing shows and just kind of that open road. Where this one right here, you kind of lean in further into the singer-songwriter aspect. You kind of there's moments where you're more in the honky tonk rather than sounding like the honky tonk. And then of course you have a lot of the Spanish and Tejano flair on the record, which I think is a really, really interesting thing. I'm half Mexican. I'll always love
Are you? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily always look Mexican, but yeah, I always love the. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, man. I was just going to say my brother is half Mexican. We have different dads. His dad's from Mexico, and so he looks just like me and my other brother. Just like I always joke, he just has a good tan year round, pretty much. He's just slightly darker skinned, but he looks just like us. You never really guess it,
Right. Yeah. That's I'm pretty white passing, but I've never really had a sunburn, so it's
yeah.
that's
awesome.
One of those little nice things about it. But yeah, I guess what I was going at is that's one of the nice expansions on this record right there. Specifically, if we want to go that route first, is you sing in Spanish and you have Raul Malo on the record, and there's these moments of the border First off, like, what was it that pushed you in that direction for starters?
Well, partially, I've always starting out, like I've always loved that. I've loved that type of music, and uh, like I said, my brother's dad, my stepdad growing up is from Mexico, and we used to do. My mom and him would make. My mom is a welder, and so they'd make all these, welded art basically, and they'd make all this, art stuff, lawn stuff, yard stuff, and they'd fix stuff from the dump and basically take it to these flea markets, and we'd work those with them. And there's tons of that music, there in California where I grew up. It's kind of like any of those states that touch Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find a good presence of that there. And so I always kind of, didn't think much. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then as I got older, I really kind of had that appreciation for it, and I saw the similarities in, country music, American country music, and, like you said, Tejano or Norteño music. And that was kind of a direction that we went on, rolling on, just as far as having, more accordion and nylon string and kind of having that be a featured instrument. But I wanted to go further in that direction, but actually, do some singing in Spanish and, yeah, just take it one step further than we did before. That was something I wanted to make sure we expanded on. And I had that song written and I had the idea to have Raul sing on it. And so I pitched it to him, and I was excited and very surprised that he was, he liked it and he wanted to sing on it. So that's kind of how it all came together. And I think he really made that song what it is. So I'm glad to have him on it.
Yeah, that's a nice connection right there. I mean, I think like a lot of people, the Mavericks are kind of like that underrated band as far as like the '90s country stuff goes.
Oh yeah.
And then of course, like this is one of those things I always throw in my whenever I have to have a bio for writing articles. It's my first concert I ever went to was Mary Chapin Carpenter and the Mavericks at the Houston
Oh
Rodeo.
wow.
Yeah, and like I was a kid, like like 7 or so, but the impact of like that Maverick show is still, and Mary Chapin Carpenter as well. But like I just specifically remember the Mavericks were just so fucking great, and it was around that time like Here Comes the Rain and stuff was out, so that was
Oh
just
yeah.
an incredible like that era in their career was incredible. But of course, like they've done a whole lot of expansion and exploring.
Definitely.
So that's yeah. I mean, just as a note for listeners, go listen to that last Mavericks record because it is amazing as well.
Oh yeah. It's a killer record, man. I love the Mavericks. They are one of my favorite bands, and is a dream to get to work with Raul and do some shows with him and stuff. But yeah, what a band, man. One of the best live shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, the you mentioned how like a lot of that music is in a lot of ways like really similar, really close to country music. All as the states as you mentioned, if they touch Mexico, they all have a little bit of that influence.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna find flea markets anywhere. I mean, I'll tell you right now, like you find a flea market, you're gonna also find like probably the best Mexican food in that
Yeah,
region too.
that's the truth, man. It is. It's the truth. Yeah, so much good Mexican food, and it's always at the most unsuspecting little cart or place.
hmm Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, that's true, man. Those flea markets, I really attribute that. A lot of people ask me quite a bit when they hear me sing in Spanish or listen to that, and they'll ask me about like where that came from. And yeah, that's it. Basically, just my kind of my stepdad's influence and having that just culture around where I grew up. And that's one thing I love about Texas. Nothing against, any of the other southern states or states up north or anything like that. I love the United States. There's beauty all over, but I love living in Texas because it reminds me of California in the way that there is a lot of that culture, that culture and influence, just kind of built in here. So makes me feel at home.
Yeah. Now, the one of the things I think if anyone's been following you on social media the last year, like they know that like you're an avid fisherman. You're always out there wetting the line, and you have like a fishing song on here. And like whenever I first saw the title, I didn't even think it was necessarily a fishing song. But then like I'll say like that's the one. And I'm not a fisherman. I don't really go. I've not been fishing since I was a kid. But that's like the one that like I've been walking around the house doing other stuff, and then end up like be humming that tune. So
Really?
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I love to hear that.
Is that like I'm assuming like that had to have come from like, you're out there fishing and that's where it kind of spawned from.
Yeah, absolutely. That song I wrote one night. I was out in the evening fishing and I came home, went to bed, and I woke up in the morning. It's weird, some songs you kind of spend a lot of time on, or you have to kind of work out the melody first or this or that. But that was one of those that just kind of came to me in the chorus. The words to the chorus just almost kind of has like a bit of a like nursery rhyme kind of cadence to it. Mm-hmm. And I just was kind of humming and singing that when I woke up, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So I picked up the guitar, and that song kind of wrote itself a little bit. Yeah. But it was definitely inspired by all the fishing that I've, done this past year.
This episode of New Slang is brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. Blue Light has long been the heart and soul of the Lubbock singer-songwriter scene and has been a home away from home for some of Texas, Americana, country, and rock and roll's finest over the years. Talk with 99.9% of the songwriters who have come out of Lubbock and the Panhandle at large over the past 20 years, and they'll point to just how integral and necessary the Blue Light is. With live music and touring slowly but surely coming back, spots like the Blue Light are getting back to their usual ways as well. That means music every night of the week. Do you want to see that schedule? Well, I've got a few options for you. 1, go to their socials and give them a follow. That is at Blue Light Live on Twitter, at The Blue Light Live on Instagram, and of course by just searching The Blue Light Live on Facebook. They're consistently posting that week's lineup of shows, as well as those heavy hitters that ought to be on your calendar that are coming up on the horizon. 2, check out bluelightlubbock.com as well. There they have the full schedule, the cover charges, time, any of those specials that may be happening. While there, go check out their merch page. They have a wide range of hats, koozies, hoodies, sweaters, beanies, jackets, and so much more. You can, of course, get all of your merch needs when you go see your favorite band take the stage at Blue Light. Just ask the bartender and they will get you all set. Speaking of which, that's another great way of seeing who's playing there. Just go to the Blue Light. It's at 1806 Buddy Holly Avenue here in Lubbock, Texas. And of course, again, that is bluelightlubbock.com. I'll throw a link into the show notes too. Maybe I'll see you there. Okay, let's get back to the show. Yeah, when it comes to the fishing, like, do you get a lot of ideas when you're out there doing that?
Yeah, definitely, man. I growing up, I did a little bit of fishing just with my dad and stuff. We'd go out to the local lake and just kind of mess around. But getting back into it over this past year, really, it's been, I didn't know when I wanted to get back into it. I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to go get some fishing. I didn't have any of my own tackle or anything. So I went and got a rod and reel and kind of got back into it. And then that just kind of ignited the obsession again. And it's become a huge outlet for me, just to go out and think and kind of clear my head and be away from anything, even music related, life related, any kind of troubles or problems. It's kind of a place, especially if you're out somewhere alone, where you can just kind of go think. And really, it's the same with going on a hike or a bike ride or anything. It's just, that's kind of what it does for me.
Yeah, I can see very much that being the case as far as the palate cleanser in a lot of ways. And
Exactly.
if it's one thing I've noticed as far as talking with people this past year, especially, has been, you know, um, those kind of moments are like probably like the essential, just as essential as whatever it is that sparks that idea for a song. Um,
Right.
just that marinating time where, all that time that you're working on a song, writing it down, that's of course like working on it, but there's so much stuff that goes into it beforehand before you even pick up the pen that is affecting the shape of that song, and you may not even necessarily know about it. It's
Absolutely.
all
It's
kind of
I feel like
subconscious. Yeah.
I feel like so much of it is subconscious. That's very true.
Yeah. Well, like how much of like this record was all this record written this past year, or are some of these stowaways from like previous years?
They're, for the most part, it was all written. Most of them were written in 2020, and there's a few that were written, late 2019
Mm-hmm.
that were, for instance, I'm sorry, looking back, um, that song I wrote with my old bass player, good friend of mine, Nick Foster. He's a great songwriter, and we kind of sat down, and I had some ideas, he had some ideas, and we kind of put those together, and that ended up being what that song was. Just as far as like a really, kind of nostalgic looking back on your life and wondering if you'd made the right decision type of feel to it. And that was, before we wrote that, late 2019. And Clayton Was a Cowboy. Also, Jody and we wrote that one together. But I had the idea for that song in 2019 as well, and kind of written down some notes. And a lot of times what I'll do is go, write down a line or, a chorus idea or something like that. And then kind of go back to that later on when I'm actually sitting down to write. And that's one of those tunes that came from the notes pile.
Yeah, that one right there is very much like where I'm talking about you leaning into the storyteller. Um, that and like I think I'll Stay and Angel on the Ground. I feel like those you really, and like the ending song, I'll Be Back Around. You really lean
Yeah.
into um, more of the storyteller in a lot of those songs right there. Do you feel like that was like a a focus this time around, or do you feel like now like it's just one of those things where when you put the record together, um, those things just ended up being something that just happened over the progress of the year, or was there like more of a focus on like maybe getting a little bit more storytelling ballads, or not necessarily ballads, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I think there was, for me, a focus for sure on that, because that's um, a lot of the songs that I like to write, and like some, like for instance, Rolling On. I think my favorite song on that album is Champion, and that's kind of one of the
Mm-hmm.
most, if not the most, actual storytelling song on that record. And those are usually also, like, when I hear a song, I love Tom Russell. I love, Robert Earl Keen. Like, I love that aspect of like storytelling, and you could call it Americana or whatever you want, but like just kind of in country music in general, I love that aspect of storytelling in a song. And so that was definitely kind of a focus for me. I wanted to kind of display that a little bit more, and I just wanted to write those songs more. That was kind of what I was having fun with. And I'm glad we got to do a little bit more of that with this record.
Yeah, the Clayton was a cowboy. Like now that you mentioned the Robert O'Keefe and Tom Russell, like I can very much hear that on like a bigger piece of sky. By
Oh,
you
I
know by
love that
Keane like
record,
that.
man.
I had a joke last year. I don't know if there was a couple of people who didn't get it, but I was like the hypothetical. Make your the best Robert O'Keefe set list, and like my set
Mhm.
list was just Jesse with the long hair like 20 times in a row.
Yeah, dude, that is the best. That is seriously one of my favorite songs. Period.
I can just like put that song on repeat and like listen to it all afternoon and not be tired. So
My
like
favorite part of that song, I mean, I love the story, but I love how the chorus. It's so simple. Just flesh and blood turns to dust. You know, it's just this short little thing that I don't quote me. I don't know how many choruses there actually are on that song, but I feel like there's a bunch of them because there's a lot of verses, you know, but it works for it
mhm.
so well, man. Yeah, that's like the epitome of songwriting right there to me.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Clayton Was a Cowboy is in that similar vein. I mean, like the cowboy, obviously, the cowboy's in the damn title, but those cowboy storytellers. So, I mean, great way to kick off the record. Well, I was
Oh,
gonna
I appreciate it.
throw out your way as a question because, and I don't know if it's one of those things because they're the first two singles. Um,
Hmm.
is there like any connection between Clayton and Think I'll Stay? Because I feel like those are like I almost envision the same character on those two.
That's funny, man. It definitely could be. Um, that I hadn't actually thought about that, man, but that definitely could be. That sounds most definitely like something Clayton would have, would have lived. And it's with "Think I'll Stay." Really, I was writing that from my perspective. Really,
Mm-hmm.
going out in the past years. I remember I was in a relationship with a girl for a few years, and we lived together, and we split up, and it was one of those kind of like atomic breakup situations where she left, and it was very dramatic uh, breakup on both sides. And like I took it really hard. I had been sober for a while at that point, and I started drinking again. And I went started drinking and then later using drugs again and all this stuff. But like in the period when I got back into drinking and was kind of just at that point starting my career as playing music as Jesse Daniel, um, I would go out to the bars a lot and basically every night. I mean, I was at the bars every night, or drinking at home, or drinking, with somebody. Just kind of uh, have done a lot of that, just going out to the bars and meeting somebody, dancing, that type of deal. And that's felt like mostly from my perspective, but I know a lot of people can. My story is not unique with that, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us have those two left feet for sure.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I've gotten a lot better at with the two left feet, man. But definitely, I'm not a dancer outside of the two step and stuff like that. I know how to dance to country music, but that's just about it.
Yeah. I always love whenever, um, like at a place like Blue Light, where it's so small in there, and every once in a while there'll be people trying to dance on the dance floor, and
Hmm.
if it's too cramped in there, like they're just running into people, and it's like sometimes they get kind of regulated to the very very back in this like one little strip on the dance
Corner.
floor, and yeah, it's sometimes like I don't know, it's such a small place, and it's one of those like that is just not made for dancing,
Yeah, sure.
and that's something like I don't know, like our grandparents were big into because like they had
Oh yeah, like
cotton
dance
clubs
halls
all
and
over, yeah, like way
sure.
bigger places to dance around, but they'll try and do it in these like little small venues, and you know, it's I don't know, it's such
Man,
a
my buddy Dallas Burrow,
yeah.
he's got he's got a venue, a really cool listening room that he just opened a while. It's actually been, I think, about a year or so. But he opened this venue called the Redbird Listening Room, and I've been lucky to just go and catch some shows there. It's a killer listening room. They've got like, pews, like church pews for seats, and then they have some chairs and stuff. And it's like just a really nice, like, actually I haven't been to the Blue Light, but I imagine it's a little bit more on the listening side than, like you said, a dance hall or whatever. But I actually saw somebody there that got up while everybody was sitting intently and listening to this acoustic songwriter. Somebody got up and started two-stepping, and it cracked me up. I was like, this is definitely out of place,
Yeah. I don't know. It's I'm going off on a tangent here, but I remember a couple of years ago, there was like rumors that they were going to bring back like Urban Cowboy, but as like a television show, and set it obviously in Texas, and then but the focus was going to be about like the dancing scene in Texas or something like that, something related to that, and it's like, nobody dances in Texas, guys. Like, are you guys in Texas right now? Are you guys going to shows? Yeah. Because like, there's not like a dancing circuit like at these, like any kind of remotely Texas country shows, except like the few and far between. It's not like people
I feel
are
like
going
the
out
only
yeah.
It's I feel like it is definitely more of a, and I'm not from here obviously, so you know better than me. But from what I've seen, it's more like for Tommy Denimore, who we did this record in the last with. He plays with a guy, Jay Cooker.
Yeah.
They play a lot of like dance hall gigs, but they're specific to that. People go to that show and they're there to dance and stuff. But yeah, for the most part, like a lot of the Texas country shows and stuff that I've been to and seen and played, people just want to go to the show.
Yeah, Jay Cooker, he'll play like Turkey, Texas up here, like at Bob Wills days kind of stuff.
Oh,
and like those kind of events, obviously connected to any kind of Western swing that is dancing. Sure. But you don't really see a lot of kids up there learning, how to dance exactly. And stuff. But yeah, it's there's I guess there's circles, but I didn't know if there was like a television show.
If they do that show, I'm gonna put this out there right now, and if they're listening, they should definitely consider putting "Think I'll Stay" on that show. I'd be all right with it.
I know if they're not doing it, maybe this like revamps some interest, and we'll have to make a couple of changes, but we'll get it. Come on as like
gonna spark it.
Yeah, get brought on as like some kind of consulting producer.
There it is.
So, yeah, I was gonna ask about, like obviously this past year, it was such a wash as far as really no touring. As you mentioned, a lot of off time for yourself. Mm-hmm. Did that also mean like, were you, I guess like when it came to recording, did you guys still approach it in that very sensible kind of, we've got X amount of days to record a record and we went in there in a 2-week period or whatever the case is, or was it more spread out because there was a lot more time to do this? What was kind of like the approach with this one?
Well, with as far as like writing the songs and getting all the materials together, like to hit the studio, we kind of took our time over the summer and fall, and we actually recorded it in 2021. It was the first week. I think we started recording on January 4th, I want to say. And we were kind of adamant about doing it out of 2020, leaving that year behind. And but all those songs and basically everything, I'm pretty methodical with getting all the stuff, like all the lyrics really, printed out, dialed in, all the arrangements, like I'll have like a black book that I just write, basically down to like which, does fiddle take first half of the verse, or does steel, or this or that. And then I kind of, would email back and forth or call back and forth with Tommy, and we kind of work those things out. And so there was a lot of like pre-production work that goes into it and went into this one. And then when we finally hit the studio in January, we just knocked it out pretty quick. I think it was about a week and a half that we, initially did all the tracking. And there were some overdubs and stuff like that. And I'd go back down. And now that I live closer to Tommy, it was a lot easier to make that happen. And I could go home, go back, the next week. But we knocked this one out pretty quickly once we were in there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was going to be one of those things where, since there was so much open time, you just did like a day here and 2 days here, and then, an afternoon here, and just kind of like doing that over the course of like a long period of time. But I do like the let's shut the the book. Let's shut the door on 2020 and just
Yeah.
start the new page.
Yeah.
Let's start with that clean slate and try.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Not have any of that bad luck coming through. Hopefully.
Totally. And I'm really glad that that year, it did teach me a lot as far as kind of it was a good practice in patience and learning to be cool, just kind of sit through disappointment and all that stuff. So this record was really rewarding to be able to put, even if not really any of the songs are about the past year of COVID or anything like that, but it was good to kind of put that, just all those emotions into this record and kind of move on to the next year. It was kind of like a cathartic type of thing.
Yeah. Well, like when it comes to that, as far as, clearly you wrote a record last year. But it's one of those things where I don't know if anyone's has been prepared to just have that massive chunk of time to create. Like it's such a foreign thing where you don't creators don't necessarily have like, hey, this next year you're going to have every day off, and also you're going to be quarantined and all the stuff attached to it.
Right.
Obviously you found a way to write and to create and stuff like that. But, a lot of people I talked with, they were not necessarily having writer's block, but like they found it challenging to write. Clearly, like you took up fishing. Was there any other creative outlets that you felt helped shape your songwriting? You talked a little bit about finding some patience and discipline within the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I went to, aside from fishing, like I got kind of right before that, over the spring and summer, I really got into working out. I got back in, excuse me, I got into kind of like the best shape I've been in since probably like high school. I was got a bench. I found somebody on Craigslist who had a used bench and some weights, and got some running shoes. And I basically just got into running and lifting weights, and I got kind of a discipline in that way, where every day I was waking up early for a while. And it's obviously, as things have kind of come back, it's hard to do. And I haven't been on my routine like I was. But for that, spring, summer, and into winter, I was pretty consistently doing that. And that was like, I would have probably gone nuts without that. That was a good thing for me. And just a lot of it was just being outside too. I'd go out and run down to the river. We live really close to the San Marcos River. And so I'd, run down there and then go jump in the water and swim for a little bit and then come back home. And that river was a huge saving grace for us, for both Jody and I. We were down there a lot. and kind of just like you said earlier, a palate cleanser when you're reading the news and everything's just kind of doom and gloom. Like we just go outside and it was pretty funny, man. There's a lot of the river was completely blocked off in town in San Marcos, and we would there was a few times that, there'd be police patrolling on quads, making sure people weren't in there. So it kind of took me back to high school and running from cops and stuff. And I would like hop the fence and go jump in the river real quick, and they'd see me, and I'd have to like scurry up the hillside and I got my kicks where I could, and didn't get in any trouble or anything. But yeah, it was good. It was a good break from all the seriousness.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's such a weird balance right there, as far as like, trying to find that schedule, trying to maintain a schedule and set up, a schedule of how you're gonna, attack last year as far as occupy the time, because it was very, very easy to waste time. It was very, very easy to just realize, I just binge watched every episode of whatever show, and then it's like I've wasted.
I definitely did some of that for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's obviously when you're writing songs, when you're creating, it's almost always about like trying to, we're trying to like figure out what that magic is. Like, how do you capture a song? How do you do all that? And there's like that magical aspect of it all, but like, it's weird how sometimes having that schedule, kind of creating that rhythm of the day, actually helps. And I'm sure, like, running and jogging and lifting weights, it's it helped like maybe give some structure of everything. Because I know, like, it's not necessarily anything I did, but last year, but it was trying to find those moments, those pinpoints.
Right.
To kind of like structure the day.
Sure. Yeah, I think, it definitely did. That's it. Structure, man. That's important. I think traditionally I'm not very good at structure, and I really it allowed me the time to get into a rhythm and to kind of learn how to be better. So I feel like that was something that I learned over last year. I always have been kind of just flying by the seat of my pants type of person, but that was definitely feel like a learned skill over the last year.
Yeah,
it didn't 100% stick. I'm not going for my runs every day now. I got to get back to it, man. But there's time. I'll get back.
I want to break one more time to talk about our pals over at Desert Door and offer up a quick Thomas Mooney's cocktail minute. As I've said probably 100 times by now, by no means am I a seasoned mixologist or bartender, but these have been some of my Desert Door go-tos. For starters, let's just go with the tried and true ranch water. Pop the top off the Topo Chico, take a good swig, now pour in some Desert Door, and top it off by throwing in a few lime wedges. Never fails. This one, it's so simple it probably doesn't even count, but again, pretty foolproof. Do the exact same thing, but get you a Mexican Coca-Cola. I guess you can go with a regular one, but you're really cutting yourself short if you don't opt for the Mexican import variety. All right, here's the change-up you've been waiting for. Desert Door Sangria. This one is prime for when you have company coming over and you aren't wanting to just be over there making 6 different drinks at a time. What you'll need is some Desert Door, obviously, a bottle of red wine, honey, boiling water, apple cider vinegar, some cinnamon sticks, a couple of apples, and some thyme sprigs. I know, that may sound intimidating, but trust me, it's worth the prep, and honestly, it's pretty easy. For starters, get you a punch bowl, add that honey, those cinnamon sticks, and the boiling water together. Now, you're going to want to stir that all up and let it cool down for about an hour or so. Remember, patience is a virtue. Once that's done, add some Desert Door and stir vigorously. Now add the wine, the cider, and the vinegar, and continue stirring until it's equally mixed. Now slice those apples up and toss them in. put in those thyme sprigs as well. Now you can pour that over some ice and you have a mighty fine sangria. Chef's kiss. Anyway, those have been some of my favorite go-tos as of late. And remember, Desert Door is as versatile as vodka and more refined, smooth, complex, and intriguing than tequila. It's rich and balanced, and whether you decide to keep it simple or want to experiment, Desert Door is that perfect Texas spirit. There's plenty more recipes over at desertdoor.com as well. Check out the show notes for a link. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, well, you mentioned sobriety. Do you think like that helped a little bit, like as far as understanding how to take the year more in that day by day kind of thing, or do you feel like there was not necessarily extra challenges, but did you feel like there was more stress last year than previous times in your life as far as maintaining sobriety?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. It definitely took its toll,
Mm-hmm.
on that. And I think in a weird way, before we were just vamping up, and I think that was around the time I talked to you. We were doing a lot of touring with Jason Bolin, and we'd done some stuff with Coulter Wall, and we were doing a lot on our own too. So we were kind of gearing up for a lot of touring. There's a lot of stuff that we were doing all ourselves, as far as like shipping, coordinating. Jody handling all the booking and management stuff, and I was feeling kind of at that point like that was the first time things had really picked up for me in my career, to that extent. And I was feeling some of the effects of it, some of just those pressures and stuff. And I think more than anything, being, not knowing how to handle all those things and then being out playing, it was kind of getting hard with the sobriety stuff, definitely you're thinking about that and it crossing my mind more and being kind of a struggle. But the weirdest thing was the past year, it wasn't really a big issue. I think I really fell back into my stride with sobriety and kind of learned to love it again through, the saying about like, you don't miss your water till the well runs dry type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When there's no shows and nothing happening, we didn't know if it would come back. I really kind of I got pretty grateful for having a clear head and not, running back to, drugs or alcohol to fix that. So I think it definitely helped my mindset and helped getting through. I know it was really hard for a lot of my friends and a lot of people. A lot of my friends went back to drinking or using drugs, and a lot of people got divorced and all kinds of crazy stuff,
Yeah, that's what's like been kind of crazy is the, specifically like obviously, idle hands kind of thing, the restlessness,
Definitely.
and that obviously puts so much pressure. But yeah, as far as divorce rates going up last year, that's obviously it's one of those things where that's a side effect of the last year that I wasn't necessarily thinking like that was going to be something that happened. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was kind of like it absolutely makes sense, but not something that I was necessarily thinking about, in March of last year. And
Right.
yeah, but it's one of those things. Clearly, if you're stuck in a place with someone that
Yeah.
you were only
Under
like
less than perfect circumstances too,
right, yeah, and maybe like it's one of those things where you guys were great together with X amount of hours a week, like it was tolerable,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
every hour of the week is entirely different story. But yeah, I guess what I was
Oh,
gonna go
definitely.
back to though was yeah, I could definitely see as far as it being one of two things as far as the stress and the restlessness of last year putting more pressure on on sobriety, or the other way around? As you kind of mentioned, like, you know, the ramp up of the career and the, you know, all the career pressure, if you will,
Hmm.
and kind of also being in those settings uh, can obviously be
Yeah,
stressful.
and not to sound like, like, oh, the career pressure, like I'm, like a Rolling Stone or something like that. I definitely don't want to sound like that. Like, I last year with Rolling On, I was like just barely starting to get just a minuscule little amount of recognition, and people just kind of starting to take a look and pay attention a little bit, and more so, I just mean, like, being on the road, and I don't know, for somebody like me, I think sometimes my brain has a hard time uh, differentiating, good excitement and, good stress from bad stress. You know what I mean? It's just, it all kind of
Right.
ends up
Yeah.
just winding me up quite a bit, and I think that's always why I drank and used drugs and stuff. Even if it was good stuff happening, it was just kind of, didn't quite know how to regulate my own stuff. But that's definitely what I learned, I think, in the last year more than I had before, is how to just kind of self-regulate.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point right there. Like not being able to differentiate uh, good stress and bad stress until you kind of have those life experiences and like just maturation, of course. Like
Hmm.
that's really interesting. Because I obviously, like, there's so many people in this world, especially when it comes to musicians and artists and people who are in that kind of way of life where so much is often given at such an early age where you sometimes don't differentiate between the two, and
Hmm.
that's clearly like where a lot of dependency issues stem from. But
Oh,
that's
definitely.
all interesting right there. Also, just by, I mean, it's not that like I'll make a note right here, like, my stepdad is a counselor, so I know a little bit of
Oh,
this
really?
stuff, but like you know, I'm not a counselor by any stretch,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you hear it enough at Thanksgiving tables and stuff, but
Totally. Yeah.
um,
Start
yeah,
to rub off a little bit.
a little bit. What's it been like though, as far as obviously these shows have been picking up. What are some of those things that you're getting prepped? As you mentioned, as far as like when you're recording, you're a big note taker as far as like the structure of what you envision. I'm assuming that probably relates to as far as you guys getting ready to go out on the road and getting prepped for this year. What are some of those things though that you're like, oh fuck, I forgot about this part of being out on the highway? Is there anything that like you kind of forgot about, or is it just one of those things like riding a bike?
In a lot of ways, it has kind of to come back pretty easily. We were so ready and so excited for it by the time that, the shows started coming back. I remember we did New Year's Eve, this recent New Year's Eve that we had. We
Mm-hmm.
did with Sonny Sweeney at I'm sorry, at Lukenbach. And that was kind of, we had done some shows before that, in the fall, but that was really the first show where there's a good amount of people there. Um, it was like socially distanced, but still everybody's sitting in chairs, and it was just about sold out. And really, you felt like, okay, there's the light at the end of the tunnel, and that was definitely kind of a weird feeling, just being, not that we were necessarily uncomfortable with that, but just getting back into being on stage and performing in front of people. And since then, it has been kind of like riding a bike, just getting back to it. And there hasn't been a whole lot that's, other than, just long drives. We've got a van that has a lot of seats in it, and we've kind of made the switch from just cramming everything in the van to, now we have a trailer that we'll haul, and so that's nice. Now everybody can kind of take some naps and whatnot in the back if somebody's driving. That's been one of those things that I used to just charge through and never sleep, or I'd be the one who drives, and then we'd get to the venue and I'd be exhausted. And now I've been kind of learning that this year, trying to just take it easy a little bit more, get some sleep if you can, type of thing. But really, yeah, it's been kind of like riding a bike, man. It's coming back.
Yeah, this is maybe something that's not even a thing, but going basically a year without playing those shows, did you have to get like, an easy? I guess like maybe like a. Did you have to? I don't know, exercise the voice throughout the year to kind of maintain a where where you're not like I'm imagining you're not like singing 90-minute sets this entire time through the quarantine, but did you have to like exercise the voice or anything or get it ready or anything like that as far as this past year?
Definitely. I think one of the biggest things that helped with that was doing the live streams that we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we stopped doing those because after a while it kind of became like a live stream hellscape where everybody was just constantly doing live streams, and I felt like I was contributing to that. Like you'd log on to Instagram and it would be like bing 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 like everybody's doing a live stream at the same time. And but in the beginning, in the first few months, it was really cool, and I got to catch some good ones. And then we do our weekly one, and that really kind of kept me singing. It was an hour long, so we just get to sing and talk and kind of interact with people and kind of keep that, even though it was different, it kept me singing and talking and with the banter and whatnot, kept that sharp. And when those were over, we stopped doing them basically because we didn't want ourselves or anybody else to really get too used to just seeing us on there. It's like I wanted to get back, and I knew eventually that we'd get back to playing shows. So it's looking back on it, I'm grateful for those live streams because they definitely kept my voice warmed up and kept us doing the thing. Without it, we would have just been playing for fun. And like you said, you usually don't play for 90 minutes and sing straight, I don't anyway. maybe some disciplined people do, but
yeah, that was one of those things I always wondered about, as far as like if people had to start ramping that voice back up before after like these long cold stretches, I guess, if you will, because I mean it's another muscle.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to stop. That's a good review. It's been great talking.
Cool. Yeah, likewise, man. I'm glad we got to catch up. It's fun.
All right, that is it for this one. Beyond These Walls by Jesse Daniel. It's out this Friday, July 30th. Go ahead and check that out when it comes out. Check out our presenting partners, Desert Door and the Blue Light Live. Make a pit stop on over at our Patreon and the New Slang merch store. And yeah, I'll see y'all next week for more episodes.